Hello, springtime greetings. Greetings. So you put the fire on. Put the fire on for this. So I'd just like to share with you something very interesting, something very close to my heart, which is about the environment. This truth about so-called climate change. This is something I've studied for about 30 years. It's called global warming. And here in Library Corner, being a librarian, I've got some extraordinary knowledge to share with anyone who's interested. And before beginning, people start saying such astonishing conclusions I and everyone who's researched this has come to. I'm certainly not sponsored by an oil company, as people may think. I'm considerably more greener than Yao. I'm the greenest person you've never met. I'm 50 and I've never even owned a car. I can't drive. I've lived in the countryside 20 years. I've done a window cleaning round in 3 towns, 3 ladders by hitchhiking, ladies and gentlemen. I've done the school run without a car or a bus, 10 miles sometimes. My children, I think they were late twice in 6 years because you're always early when you haven't got a car. I've hitchhiked in 20,000 cars. I've planted over and been involved in planting tens of thousands of native trees with Trees for Life, plug, Trees for Life Scotland. So these extinction Orwellian people and this ludicrous stupidity, these stop oil people and all this, with their magical seagull and their subconscious focus on extinction, you'll notice. This is a government psyops, and I suggest these people take to heart the words of John Lennon. The way you live your life is a political statement. I've lived in yurts, teepees, caravans, tents. There's no one more green than me. I'm entitled to several billion carbon credits, I think you'll find. So I say this and big myself up because my conclusion, following many years of research, is the same conclusion people come to after about an hour, 90 minutes research, really, of any subject. There's countless superb films out there which expose the truth about anything, and it takes about an hour, 90 minutes. For example, if you watch Ripple Effect about the 7/7 bombings in London, or you watch any number of things about 9/11, such as Loose Change, or you watch something about the assassination of Kennedy, or the moon landings, or vaccinations, it only takes about an hour of scientific facts to destroy, annihilate, and eviscerate the official story, or to certainly put questions in your mind which you never had before and make you think and think outside the box. And then you'll see the same pattern going on again and again. And then you'll learn about the English language, the language of the dead, and how it's full of spells. And things get very interesting the more you go into. So, for example, 30 years ago, there was a thing called global warming, you remember. Then it shifted to climate change when they worked out actually the world's getting colder, not warmer. We'll come back to that. Now it's man-made climate change. You may remember people dying with COVID. You can't die with anything. So they then changed to dying within 28 days of a positive test. And they then changed it to, well, it's mentioned on the death certificate. Can you see the same truth within a lie? The very word climate change. Well, looking out the window, it was nice and sunny this morning, and then it got windy. Now it's raining. It's expected to be a bit blustery later on. The climate's always changing. This is dying with COVID all over again. It's the same nonsense. It's the same spells. When they go on about man-made climate change, again, it's the truth within a lie. We all know there are extremely incredible high technology machines that can change the weather. Simply putting, is it silver oxide in the clouds, makes the clouds heavy, makes it rain. You see this at Woodstock, the spotter planes going into the clouds, next minute there's a mud bath. you look at an earlier blog I did about the British doing this in North Somerset and the destruction of an entire village due to this same thing. But this is far, far, far greater technology at work here, known as the harp machine. Angels Don't Play This Harp is a recommended book here in Library Corner. And The Weather Wars is the website you're looking for. Incredibly detailed information. The first letter by a weatherman from America. He was on the telly every night. Dead normal, he's a weatherman. Always go to the experts who's detailed this incredibly detailed website, The Weather Wars. And he quotes on line one of his websites George Bush when the Hurricane Katrina, you remember, drowned New Orleans when the levee breaks. And what did he say? He said, and I quote, "It looks like the greatest weapon known to man has hit my country. Not an act of God or a catastrophe, a weapon." He's telling you the truth. What did Nikolai Khrushchev, the Russian leader, in the 50s say? He says, "We have created the perfect weapon that's unstoppable." Was it that time, 47, 49? We had still to this day the worst winter on history when there was snowdrift 6 foot tall till April. And what did they say? This was after the World War II. It was called the Cold War. What did Vladimir Putin say recently? And he was misquoted. He said to the West after the Nord Stream pipeline blew up, he said they should realise, quote, "the wind can change direction." And everyone said he was going on about nuclear weapons. No, he's talking about the weather. And what then happened in America? Minus 40-degree blizzards, 35-degree drops in an hour. Unnatural weather. Did the wind indeed change direction? And then Turkey, look what's happened to poor Turkey. And you can tell when this isn't a natural earthquake because the seismology graph. And this again shows all the hallmarks of the weather machine. The harp machine in America, lots of different countries have these, is registered at the patent office. We have the number, we have the quote, we have the register, and it is, quote, a weather modification machine. You may remember, this is all off the cuff, there's no notes here. You may remember Superman 1, and the whole premise of the film was that the bad guy, Lex Luthor, had a weather modification machine, a laser zapper, and the big guy got the holiday in Colombia in the height of summer, and he was at a church wedding, and the church falls down and there's storms and everything because of the weather machine, which spoiled the coffee crop, etc. There they are, they're showing you again. So the fact that the Babylon can change the weather is on the record. I believe a couple of years ago, the Indian government sued the Americans over using the harp machine on them. Look this up, this is next level. So any idea that this is some anti-coincidence fact? Well, it is. This is factual information. So Mr. Greener Than You says that this entire climate change, global warming, man-made global warming, is indeed happening, but it's nothing to do with pollution. And this is my whole point. The word pollution is now banned. There's nothing to do with anything. You don't say pollution anymore. You're going about carbon dioxide. Now, this is, again, luciferic spells. This is laughable. Can you not just get with the program? The idea that the fumes coming out of the back of your car contain carbon dioxide. Yeah, well, I'm sure they do, but they contain other things far worse than carbon dioxide, which is what you breathe out, ladies and gentlemen. This is what makes plants grow. They breathe it in and turn it into oxygen. You remember this from very basic biology class. For God's sake, the idea that what you breathe out is destroying the world is, again, laughable, luciferic humour. Get with the program and wake up. Now, this is just ridiculous. Okay. The speaker's Mr. I've planted 10,000 native trees, blah, 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 blah. This is laughable and ridiculous. The reason for the weather, and there's another great book for you all to look up here in the library corner, and that is Chill, A Shaman's Guide to Climate Change. The man who wrote this book, his name I forget, Peter, he was a climate change scientist for the IPCC, for goodness sake. These are the people behind all of this. And the carbon bank, you'll notice, Yes, carbon credits and money and fear. For goodness sake, man. And he said he was one of the 260 scientists whose name's on the list saying, yes, we've got climate change. And he said, that's nonsense. I looked into it and it's utter bullshit. And they put my name on anyway. And there's hundreds of these guys going around the world saying, listen, we're the scientists who did the research which found all this, and our conclusion was entirely the opposite. Rather like the conclusions from the animal trials on the vaccines, you could say. They already knew the truth and just ignored it anyway. Exactly the same story again. Okay. Furthermore, the reason, as he says, for the weather, the things that make the natural weather on our planet, and this is what the battle is a thing in the sky called the sun. Funny though, isn't it? And you got things called solar flares, which are explosions from the sun which go out millions and millions of miles. And ahead of this solar flare, they send electromagnetic rays, and these part the clouds and make it really hot and sunny. And there are solar cycles which are peaking only next year. We're already getting going. And these lead to very hot, chaotic weather. And when there aren't any solar flares, which has happened throughout history, you have a mini ice age. As you'll see, look at those pictures of the Thames, people skating on the Thames when it's 6 foot thick of ice, you see. From then till now, yes, it's got warmer, but go before then, look at Roman times when it was already this catastrophic 1.5 degrees warmer than it is now. Did the polar ice caps melt? Was there disastrous floods? No! Polar ice caps are actually far higher now than they were then, 70 to 80% at their peak of all time. This is just ridiculous. When we've seen these polar bears swimming away, as the guy from the station up in the Arctic said, but you've taken these pictures in the summertime when the ice melts. And 2 years ago, it refroze more than it ever has in history. There you go, they don't tell you that. So this is just ridiculous. Also, we are at the closest point to the sun. The sun doesn't just spin round, it goes up and down and in and out. And it's up as far as it can go and out as far as it can go at the moment. We are going through a photon band as we go through. There's another sun, Alcyone, in the Pleiades, which our sun goes around, and there's a great central sun as well they don't tell you about. And all these things are lining up, and we are as close as we can. So chaotic weather is precisely what can be expected naturally as we transit from one age to another, which the native Australians, the Aborigines, the Native Americans, the shaman all over the world, and the Hindu Vegas, they're all telling you the same thing that we're going through, as does Western astrology. Great, amazing change into a paradise, quite frankly, because this isn't going to be allowed to go on any longer. These lies and this nonsense. I can assure you, there's no end of the world. There's the end of their world. The apocalypse and the revelation in the Bible may well be the revelation of the truth about what goes on this planet. And that would indeed be an apocalypse for the bad guys. It's game over for them and their intention of control and lies on every level, all the time, about pretty much everything. So, ranting away, folks. Thanks for listening. This is Mr. Green here, Mr. Greener than you are, telling you to avoid fear and of course the climate change. It changes all the time. And if you really want to get into it, I believe we can control the weather ourselves as within, so without, by communicating with the spirits of the air and the earth, and to ground things and to tell it to ease and chill out. And this is what we used to do in other times. If we're all fearful and worried, then I believe this will be transmitted into the earth. And if billions and billions of people are worried and concerned and fearful, then this, would you believe, now I'm only adding this on myself, shamanic beliefs, this can affect the weather. And likewise, peace and calm and hope and prayers, I believe, can also affect the weather. So we've got to choose what we want. Or you may not believe you've got any powers to do anything at all, and you just worry about the climate. It's your choice. Anyway, there we go. So for listening. This is Tree Hugger here. One love.